Farmington 911. What's the location of your emergency?
I'm worried about my wife and kids.
On fire for a medic and an ambulance, expedited response.
I have always maintained that I thought she might be here.
Jennifer Dulos led the perfect life. Wealthy and active and smart, she had a beautiful family and an attractive, enterprising husband. Her dreams had come true, but things were not as they seemed, and the ideal life was about to crumble. A marriage full of tensions was reaching boiling point. Jennifer would go on to take her children and run, but when she finally disappeared, it wasn't of her own volition. So where did she go? What happened to this brilliant writer and loving wife? And what did her husband have to do with it? This is the tragic story of Jennifer Dulos. Jennifer Dulos was born in 1968 in New York City. She came from a well-to-do family. Her father was a banker and her mother was a philanthropist, while her aunt by marriage was Liz Claiborne, who founded the fashion company that would later buy the Kate Spade brand. As a result, Jennifer grew up in a creative and financially supportive environment. She was smart and had the pick of Ivy League universities, and she chose Brown. She graduated from Brown in 1990 and went on to pursue a master's degree in writing at an arts university in New York. Jennifer had always dreamed of a high society life. In an essay she published in 1998, when she was 30, she wrote about the women she idolized: correctly poised supergirls, well-educated, accomplished, thoroughbred. Her dream career would not be a career at all. It would be supervising her family's New York calendars. Still, she occupied herself writing and was a known figure on New York's literary scene in the 90s, described as a vibrant presence. She wrote multiple plays about her romantic experiences, reflecting fears about commitment and emotional honesty. She had a string of relationships that did not succeed, but she was still looking for the one. At the end of the 90s, Jennifer moved out of New York. She had no more romantic luck in the countryside, and her ideal life began to feel more of a distant dream. Little did she know she'd already met the man of her dreams, the man who would become her husband. Fotis Dulos was Greek, born in Istanbul in 1967. At the age of 7, he and his family had moved to Athens, but he wanted more. In a piece of personal writing, he said he wanted to get exposed to societies and cultures beyond his own country. He was smart and ambitious, and this ambition led him across the Atlantic to Brown University, where he began his degree a year before Jennifer did. Jennifer met Fotis in her first week at Brown. They had chemistry, but it didn't go anywhere. Jennifer was settling into her exciting new life, and Fotis was preoccupied with his existing romances. He graduated in 1989 and went to Columbia for his MBA in finance. In 2000, he married another Brown graduate, Hillary Aldama. Hillary was also ambitious, a lawyer and a writer, but this led to friction in their relationship.
There is something very attractive when you're a creative person yourself and you meet somebody who's also an entrepreneur. You're riding that high bridge with them and you're kind of like dangling off the sides.
Fotis was indeed living a successful life. He was a manager at a technology consulting firm and sought the high life wherever he could. A friend said everything with him had to be the best ski equipment, the Porsche. He was also highly athletic, early to the 2010s wellness trend. Jennifer had been a competitive squash player and continued to enjoy running. They had a lot in common, and with Fotis' marriage to Hillary on the rocks, it was no wonder that sparks flew when Fotis and Jennifer ran into each other at the airport in Aspen in 2003. A year later, January 13, 2004, Fotis emailed Jennifer. His divorce from Hillary was in progress, and he wanted to meet up with Jennifer. He wanted to breathe life into the connection they'd always shared since they first met at Brown in 1986. Jennifer described him on her blog as this young man I'd always liked. We had a special chemistry together, always, something special and precious, and we were careful to be careful with one another until lightning finally struck. In 2004, a month after Fotis and Hillary's divorce went through, Jennifer and Fotis were married in Manhattan. The divorce was settled amicably, but Hillary was glad to be out of it.
That was a relationship that was very unhealthy, that actually ended up involving a high-profile case. You literally dodged a bullet there.
I think so.
No one could have known how Fotis's second marriage would end. Jennifer certainly didn't. She thought she was getting everything she dreamed of: a supportive, athletic, and attractive husband, a large family, and a life of luxury to go along with it. The couple moved to picturesque Farmington, Connecticut, and there Fotis started his own business with the financial backing of Jennifer's banker father. In Connecticut, Jennifer struggled to make new friends. She socialized mainly with Fotis's friends and participated in his hobbies like water skiing, though she hated it. Her own interests, such as writing, were set aside, and her unfinished novel manuscript went into a drawer to collect dust. Fotis had a very chaotic working method. A friend described him as a last-minute shooting for the deadline kind of guy. Meanwhile, they were both getting stressed under the pressure to have children. They both wanted to conceive, but they were struggling. They turned to medical intervention, and finally Jennifer gave birth to twins in 2006. But this heralded a new era of their relationship, and the beginning of its decline. Jennifer and Fotis had 5 children together, including 2 sets of twins. The family was active and high-achieving, just the way Jennifer had dreamed of it. The kids' days were packed with hobbies, such as art, horse riding, and Fotis's beloved water skiing. But family life was also stressful. To keep cash flowing in his real estate business, Fotis constantly moved them from house to house, and the kids' busy lives meant that Jennifer had little time for herself. She and Fotis began to fight. In a blog post in 2012, Jennifer wrote, "I wish I were a stronger person, and that confrontation did not both scare and appall me." Hints like this of deep conflicts in the marriage were littered across her writing, and external pressures emerged too. Fotis's parents moved to the U.S., but his mother was killed shortly afterwards in a freak accident, run over by the couple's nanny. Jennifer's father developed complications from an autoimmune disease. Sometimes pressures like these can draw couples closer together, but instead they pushed Jennifer and Fotis only further apart. Fotis began spending time away from home. Sometimes he was gone for as many as 10 days each month on what he said were water skiing trips. Jennifer, meanwhile, drew into herself, spending more time reading, and became increasingly isolated as Fotis cut her off from her friends. Fotis also displayed aggressive behavior. He punched out a parking lot attendant at her parents' apartment building and forced the kids to compete at ever higher water ski levels when they didn't want to. Jennifer wrote, "They are physically and emotionally exhausted and have begged me to do something about it. We are all terrified to disobey my husband." Things came to a head in 2017. Jennifer's father died, and it was amidst her grief that Fotis told her he was having an affair. His mistress was a Venezuelan woman named Michelle Troconis. Born in 1975, Michelle was a marketing and PR manager for high-end resorts, an advanced skier with ambitions to rank in the top 50 water skiers nationwide. Just the way Fotis and Jennifer had felt an instant attraction when they reconnected in 2003, so too did Fotis and Michelle now realize their similarities, and Fotis cast Jennifer aside. Fotis told Jennifer he'd fallen out of love with her. He said he still wanted to remain close with her and the children, however, and did not want them to move. He even suggested that Michelle could move into their mansion, which was plenty large enough to host all of them together. Jennifer couldn't believe this. She opened up to the kids' nanny.
She opened up more, saying that she was no longer in love with Fotis, but she had 5 kids, so they were going to try and work out what they could.
After an emotional year, she was reaching breaking point, and there was one final straw. Jennifer and Fotis had an agreement not to bring guns into the home for the sake of the kids. Yet around this time, Fotis bought a 9mm Glock. Jennifer learned this not from Fotis himself, but from their children. Fotis had shown the gun to the kids before telling Jennifer he'd bought it, so breaking their agreement. The introduction of a deadly weapon into an already conflicted household worried Jennifer.
She was afraid of what Fotis would do to her or with the kids if she filed for divorce while they were living under the same roof.
So she made a plan to move out secretly. Under the cover of night in June 2017, she piled the kids into the car and drove them to a new home in New Canaan. Fotis was furious. He called 911.
I'm worried about my wife and kids because they left to go to New York, and I haven't been able to get in touch with them.
But nothing bad had happened to Jennifer. Not yet. The next day, she filed for divorce. In the filing, she wrote, "I know that filing for divorce and filing this motion will enrage him. I know he will retaliate by trying to harm me in some way." She mentioned Fotis's affair with Michelle and alleged he had threatened to kidnap their children if Jennifer did not agree to his terms. The couple were given temporary joint custody while the divorce was settled, but Jennifer made multiple requests for emergency sole custody. In March 2018, this was granted, as a judge learned that Fotis had been seeing the children in the presence of Michelle, which was not allowed, and telling them to lie about it. Fotis had lost custody of his children. He also felt undermined and emasculated. He claimed Jennifer had told the kids, "Your father likes Farmington because he is not that smart. Successful people live in New Canaan." On top of all this, he was losing money. Upon Jennifer's father's death, her mother sued Fotis for the loan he'd been given for his business, at least $1.7 million. The pressure was escalating, and the outcome of the divorce looked like it would be humiliating indeed. In May 2019, relations had soured even further. A family dog was dying of a terminal illness, and Fotis and Michelle wanted the kids to visit to say goodbye. Jennifer didn't trust Fotis even this far. She wouldn't let the children go. An employee of Fotis witnessed Michelle's resulting fury.
She said that should be buried right next to his dog.
It was not long after this that Jennifer Dulos went missing. On May 24, 2019, Jennifer was seen dropping the kids off at school in New Canaan at around 8 a.m. She was then seen by a neighbor's security camera returning home at 8:05. She had 2 doctor's appointments scheduled for that day in New York City, an hour away, one at 11 a.m. and one at 1 p.m. She did not turn up for either appointment. At around 11, the children's nanny, Lauren Almeida, arrived at Jennifer's house. She let herself in.
Did you notice anything unusual when you went into the garage?
When I went into the garage, yes, the Range Rover was still there and the Suburban was gone when she told me she would be taking the Range Rover.
Did you notice anything unusual?
A couple things, yes.
Tell the jury what you noticed.
So first, her purse was on the floor. The tea was still full. There were only 2 rolls of paper towels left.
Lauren went about her daily tasks as usual. She wouldn't recognize these signs as foreboding until later on. She picked up the kids and texted Jennifer because one of the kids couldn't find her iPad, but Jennifer didn't answer. They were supposed to be meeting Jennifer at her mom's apartment in Manhattan. but Jennifer never showed up.
It's like my stomach just sank because she never not answered her phone.
Lauren called around to Jennifer's friends. No one had seen her. Upon learning that her boss hadn't turned up to her appointments in New York and hadn't been seen since 8 that morning, Lauren called the police. The police found blood spatter on the floor, door, and a wall in the garage. There was also blood on the exterior of the Range Rover and in the kitchen. When they DNA tested this blood, they found it was all Jennifer's. All of it except the blood on the kitchen faucet, which was a combination of Jennifer's and Fotis's. Someone had tried to clean up the blood, which was why Lauren hadn't noticed any, and why there was so little kitchen roll left. Jennifer's Suburban was found parked behind Waveney Park in New Canaan that night. On May 26th, the police commenced a search of the 300-acre park. As the days passed without any sign, they extended their search, looking in the vicinity of Fotis's properties. When a wife goes missing, the husband is always the first port of call. And in this case, with such a contentious divorce going on, Fotis cut a highly suspicious figure. And new evidence was emerging. The area had a lot of CCTV coverage since it was filled with high-value properties whose owners valued their security. Doorbell cameras and street CCTV captured the sequence of events on that fateful May 24th as clearly as any eyewitness. At approximately 7:30 p.m. on that day, a pickup truck registered to Fotis's company was seen driving down Albany Avenue with several trash bags in the back. It dipped out of camera view, and then when seen again, there were considerably less bags in the back, and a man could be seen getting out to put another bag in a trash can. This routine continued several times. The driver was Fotis Doulos and the passenger was Michelle Troconis, and they were disposing of something piecemeal, like they were trying to avert suspicion. The police searched these trash cans. They found all the evidence the pair had been trying to dispose of. A huge collection of items, many of them stained with Jennifer's blood. The items included cleaning materials, Jennifer's clothes, and zip ties. This was enough for the police to consider Jennifer's disappearance a suspicious death, and for both Fotis and Michelle to be arrested. A search warrant uncovered further damning evidence. At Fotis's house, the police found what they called an alibi script. It was a handwritten timeline outlining both Fotis and Michelle's movements on May 24th and 25th. It claimed Michelle had spent the morning when Jennifer had been killed running errands, a story Michelle stuck to in her first police interview.
Fotis killed Jennifer. Okay? This is a fact. We know this.
Michelle reacted shocked. But was this genuine? She invented a story about the timeline being a request from Fotis's lawyer, but it omitted their trip dumping trash on the evening of May 24th, when they'd been seen clearly on CCTV. If this was a lie, what else were they hiding? Michelle was interviewed 3 times. Across these interviews, she contradicted herself and Fotis. When asked where Fotis had been on the morning of May 24th, she stated they'd woken up together at 6:40 a.m. This was inconsistent with Fotis's cell phone records, which showed his alarm had activated at 4:20 a.m. and had been shut off at 4:21 a.m. When pressed, Michelle said that Fotis might not have been at home all morning. Finally, in the 3rd interview, she admitted that Fotis had not been home when her own alarm went off at 6:40 a.m. Fotis's alibi had collapsed. With that, the story began to unravel. On May 29th, Fotis and Michelle together took the pickup truck, which belonged to one of Fotis's employees, to a car wash. The police seized the vehicle in June, and Jennifer's blood was found on the passenger seat. All the couple's efforts to cover up what they'd done couldn't escape cold, hard facts: DNA evidence and CCTV recordings. A residential surveillance system showed a figure on a bicycle cycling towards Jennifer's house at 7:31 on the morning of May 24th. It was Fotis. Another surveillance camera caught the pickup truck driving towards that area and parking in a turnoff behind Waveney Park, the same turnoff in which Jennifer's Suburban would be found later that same day. The truck bed was at that point empty. At 8:05, Jennifer arrived home, and at 10:25, her Suburban was seen driving away from her house, but it was not Jennifer who was driving it. In those 2 hours and 20 minutes, Jennifer had been murdered. What exactly she was subjected to by her soon-to-be ex-husband, we don't know. Her body was never found, but prosecutors believe that Fotis restrained Jennifer with zip ties around her wrists and ankles before stabbing her. The weapon has also not been found. According to prosecutors, Fotis used the 10 missing rolls of kitchen roll to clean up Jennifer's blood. They then loaded her body and his bike into the Suburban and drove them over to the turnoff where he'd left the pickup. He transferred his wife's body into the pickup truck alongside his bike and left her car there with the lights on, as if to imply she'd been abducted in a hurry. It was becoming clear what Fotis and Michelle had done, possibly with the assistance of some of Fotis's colleagues. Fotis's legal team became desperate. They suggested that Jennifer could have executed a Gone Girl-style disappearance, in which she framed her husband for murder as revenge for her infidelity. This defense drew on her blog, which painted a convenient picture of a marriage in decline and a wife in fear for her life. But this fictional defense could not hope to counter physical evidence. And Fotis was lacking in sympathy. He already had another girlfriend living with him, Anna Curry. Michelle was turning on him, as the public was too, and when he was indicted for murder in January 2020, Anna paid for some of his bond, but the rest of it was raised against properties he did not actually own. On January 28th, Fotis realized he was likely to be taken back to jail, where he would remain until the trial, which was not looking positive. It might have been his last day of freedom. Maybe that's why he did what he did next.
Update on Fotis Dulos, who was reportedly found unresponsive at his home earlier today.
That morning, Fotis had sent Anna out on an errand. Then he sat in his car with a hose attached to the exhaust pipe, having written a suicide note. He wrote, "If you are reading this, I am no more. I refuse to spend even an hour in jail for something I had nothing to do with. Enough is enough. If it takes my head to end this, so be it." Paramedics managed to resuscitate him, but he died 2 days later in hospital. Some of Jennifer's friends viewed this as justice. Others saw it as a cowardly escape from closure and consequences. But Michelle remained alive and had also been indicted in January, alongside Fotis's former attorney, Kent Mawhinney, who'd been mentioned in both alibis. 6 days before Jennifer's disappearance, 2 members of Kent's gun club had stumbled upon a hole in the woods behind the club. It was 2 feet wide, 6 feet long, and 3 feet deep, the shape of a grave. There were 2 unopened bags of lime in it. Lime can be used to decompose a body. When they came back to investigate 4 days later, 2 days before Jennifer went missing, the lime was gone. No remains were found in that area when the police searched it. Kent faces other charges against his own wife, and his trial date in the case has not yet been set. But Michelle was tried in January 2024, and in March she was found guilty of all 6 counts. She was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, 2 counts of conspiracy to tamper with physical evidence, 2 counts of tampering with physical evidence, and 1 count of second-degree hindering prosecution. That Michelle was convicted of murder without a weapon or a body shows the strength of the prosecution's case and the certainty of the jury that she did it. What are your thoughts on this tragic story? Did Jennifer's case result in justice? Until next time, stay safe, keep up with our channel, and we will see you very soon on The Decoder.